do these things want, and why are they here?
You still don't get it, do you, boy?
They have recruited the rich and the powerful.
They're running the whole show.
Wake up! They're all about you, all around you. Blinded us to the truth.
Take a look.
They are safe as long as they are not discovered.
I don't know what they are or where they came from, but we gotta stop them. Stay away from me. Put these on. They have us. Look at them. They're everywhere. Our owner.
We have no other choice.
I don't like this one bit. Leave it alone, man. It ain't none of my business. Ain't none of yours.
We have been lulled into a trance.
Listen to what I'm saying to you. We're in trouble. The whole world's in trouble. Control us! You're sending some kind of signals out of TV sets.
I've got one that can see.
Mama don't like tattletale.
Now we start spilling some blood.
Let's go!
Push a button.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
What is up, everybody?
What is going on, my man?
Oh, another day, man. First of all, I want to say that is a blatant lie. This movie is no longer available to see in theaters.
This is very true. We're already starting off untrustworthy.
Very untrustworthy, and that is a major, I don't want to say quite theme, but I guess theme, you could say it is a theme of this film.
I think you definitely can. I think it's a major theme of the film.
Very important piece to the puzzle that is, in fact, They Live. Initially, well, it was based off of a short story, if I'm not mistaken, called 8 O'Clock in the Morning.
Yep,
Which came out
by an author named Ray Nelson.
That came out in the 1950s, I believe, correct?
Yes.
And, of course, it would later be adapted by the man himself, John Carpenter, and his response to Reaganism, which was, needless to say, quite the thing of the 80s.
Yeah, Reaganomics was definitely a political, economic system that kind of bled out of just economics and trickled into many different social issues. And, it created quite a divide in the country between the haves and the have-nots. And I think that's why a movie like They Live is not just a fantastic film, and it's actually my favorite John Carpenter movie. And it's probably in the minority there. But it's a film that's also timeless, and that is just as relevant now or more now than it was in 1988 when it was released.
Oh, yeah.
And even the book came out, the story came out in the 50s, right? Like we talked about. That was kind of like maybe a reflection of what was going on at the time in the 50s. Communism was a big fear. And then in the 80s, it was Reaganism. And really just that idea of, those who have everything really control all of us. Now, not really on a micro level,
right?
But more so on a macro level. Since how they run the government and how they run a lot of the businesses, because a lot of the businesses, the big money businesses, have say in our government through lobbying, and you pay off your senators and your representatives in Congress, and more so, that's what gets talked about most. But it's really more on a local level.
Oh yeah.
Whether it's state, city, town, the more local the governments are being infiltrated by outside, forces, the more it's going to affect you directly.
Oh yeah. Now that is
I did that I covered politics for 10 years.
so you got a pretty good in on that,
Yeah,
so to speak.
And I loved this movie as a kid because it was, number one, it's fun. It's got a lot of energy.
Right.
Number two, I loved John Carpenter even when I was young because Halloween, obviously, and then later on, I got into so many of his other films. The Fog, I absolutely love, and of course, The Thing.
Yes, who
but
does not love The Thing?
The other part of that is Roddy Piper. If there's anything that I'm more passionate about, or just as passionate about as I am with film, specifically horror film, it's wrestling. That's what I do, man. My YouTube channel is horror movies, and my writing, though there is some film stuff there, it's wrestling. So I get to do both.
Oh yeah.
Got my They Live shirt right here.
Hell yeah, man. Watch TV.
And you know what? This is interesting, and I didn't even realize this until today. The date that we're doing this, it's April 16th, and we'll be crossing over into the 17th in the middle of the film. This wasn't strategic. We kind of we talked about it. We just picked this date, right? It just happened to be.
Yeah.
On the 17th, while we're streaming live, even though he's passed, it would have been Roddy Piper's birthday. Look at that.
That was very unintentional, for sure.
Sometimes things happen, so there you go. Roddy Piper did a fantastic job in this role. I don't think he gets enough credit.
Oh, not at all.
If anybody has the opportunity to get the Scream Factory release, whether the Blu-ray or the DVD, there's a wonderful commentary track on that with Carpenter and Roddy Piper. Just them two talking for... There you go. Okay, so you got both.
Absolutely.
Have you had a chance to watch it with that commentary yet?
I think I did listen to it with that commentary. I know Big Trouble in Little China, I did that commentary too.
It's really good.
The commentaries are a lot of fun.
I love commentary tracks. I'm so interested in the behind the scenes and the making of movies. So to me, it's like kind of just sitting down with the filmmakers and just quiet, and we just listen to them.
Right.
And you can tell sometimes on commentaries, you can tell when it's just kind of part of the contract that they have to do it, and they're just kind of going through the motions. These two had so much fun making this movie. The energy in the commentary track was fantastic, and it's just such a good movie to watch over and discuss, and I'm glad it's one that we'll be doing tonight.
Absolutely, man. This one I only got around to seeing a couple of years ago, and it's one of those ones that a lot like it's the same thing with Big Trouble in Little China. I only saw both of them recently, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and I couldn't help but think if I'd have seen these as a kid, they would have easily been two of my favoriteest movies ever, and that's ironically where they sit now.
Yeah.
But I feel like if I'd had these movies around forever, I probably maybe would have liked both of them more than Halloween and even The Thing. But
yeah, I think a movie like this, it has a lot of rewatchability.
Oh yeah,
it's so much fun, and there's a lot of energy to it. You could say that about several of John Carpenter's movies, and this one is, there was a discussion. I don't know if it was in Killer Flicks or it was in a horror group that I saw from a post where somebody said, "Oh, I watched They Live today," which is funny that they had picked that, and they said, "Oh, I don't think it's a horror movie. What do you think?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, it's not, some movies are just strictly one genre.
Right.
Other films dip their toes in several. I have the Blu-ray, but I have it queued up here on Vudu, the digital copy. And under genre, it has action, comedy, and horror. No, I don't think comedy really is that appropriate. But I probably would substitute comedy out and put sci-fi in.
Right. Yeah. That definitely has a strong
Yeah,
sci-fi element to it.
horror, sci-fi, and action, I think, and within that, the social commentary is so important. And like we discussed with the George Romero films that we've done, I'm a big fan of the social commentary in movies, and this is one it really does a great job with it. It really does.
Absolutely. It really does, man. And
I still, I completely forgot. I actually have the old VHS still.
oh, no way. That's awesome.
I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna show you.
I do gotta slightly disagree though, where Robbie said comedy doesn't quite feel necessary. I would say this movie is a little on the comedy side, only in the fact that it has a few comedy elements to it. It's not a full comedy outright, but there's certainly strong elements of humor throughout.
It's not so much like when I think comedy, I'm thinking Stripes, I'm thinking Airplane, I'm thinking 40-Year-Old Virgin, Tommy Boy. That's Dumb and Dumber. That's comedy. To me, it have some comedic, like you said, comedic elements, but I wouldn't call it a comedy.
Yeah,
there you go.
Now that is awesome. That is awesome.
And the man himself, right there, Mr. Roddy Piper, filming this movie right after defeating the adorable Adrian Adonis at WrestleMania 3. There you go.
And that was actually how he met, how him and Carpenter met, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was there at Pontiac, Michigan, in the Silverdome, 93,000 strong. Saw him there, and met him there, and the rest is history. Piper went on to do a lot of acting, but this by far was his peak, his best work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I know I haven't seen a whole lot of his acting, but another one of Piper's acting bits that really stands out to me was a few episodes of Sunny in Philadelphia that he did, where he plays a kind of a fringe crazy wrestler, so not having to act too much.
His other movie was called Hell Comes to Frogtown. That came out within a couple of years after, I believe it was after. Oh, was that right before They Live?
Okay.
A couple of months.
That sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to put that one on the watch list for sure.
Yeah.
I always like seeing wrestlers in film. And real quick, speaking of...
Some of them do okay, some not so much. I mean, obviously, The Rock is the one that has taken that and is legitimate.
Oh, yeah.
He does everything. I mean, I don't know anything that guy doesn't do. The busiest guy in the world, and he's jacked to the gill.
Oh, yeah. It's like... I would have an anxiety attack if I had to do like just one day in Dwayne Johnson's shoes, man.
I wouldn't make it past lunch.
But yeah, speaking of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, though, if they were to remake this film, they would put zero thought into casting him as Nada for that.
Oh yeah, and you know what? He'd do a great job.
He would, but man, I feel like he would lack the everyman element that we get from Piper.
Yeah, you know what? I think The Rock is too big.
It's one of those things, like, it would be interesting to see, but it would almost be a cartoon at that point. But of course they would have much more of a budget to work with. I believe this one was only made off of $3 million, if I remember correctly.
Yep, $3 million, and they had a $13 million return at the box office. So considering that's not a lot of money in return, but considering the budget, not terrible.
Oh yeah. It was always nice to see when Carpenter could make something back. Real quick, just want to address the chat. We do have crew member Matt Fauci's in the chat. We got Aiden, Miss Carter, and that seems to be the gang for the night. Here we go. Here's a good one. Carpenter had to make Starman a fun, friendly alien film to get more jobs in Hollywood because the thing bombed horribly with critics. Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, Starman and The Thing are kind of on a very similar level, obviously, two
I watched
completely different ends.
I saw Starman for the first time last year. I found it for like $12, the Scream Factory Blu-ray. I was sitting at Walmart, and after passing it up a couple of times over the 2 or 3 months prior, I picked it up, watched it, and really liked it. It was nice, fun.
Oh yeah, I picked that one up on VHS at a thrift store for 99 cents and
Nice.
adored it, and had to get the Scream Factory Blu-ray. And in fact, I got most of Carpenter's work on Scream Factory Blu-ray, so it's Carpenter is to me what Romero is to Robby. So
there you go.
Well, we'll get that stated right there for you guys. So yeah, I guess we are just about ready to start this thing. Let's get that queued up. Got the bam. Got the Universal logo just kind of zooming in. We still see the field of stars.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna.
3 seconds in.
All right, whoa. Hold on. Pause yours for a second, then we'll do a little countdown.
We are paused at 3 seconds, everybody. This is going to be a really, really good watch, because this film, again, for those of y'all who have not seen it and are watching along, just prepare yourselves. There will certainly be some spoilers throughout as we get along.
So you have it paused right as the ball is starting to get visible?
Just about, yeah.
All right, ready?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We got 3, 2, 1. Blast off.
Boom. All right. Universal logo right there.
Yes, sir.
I love this movie, and I'm glad people are going to be watching along here, whether it's live or on the replay. This is it's just good. There's so much that's being said in this movie. So we talked about it with a lot of with the George Romero stuff, where some films are made just for the pure entertainment, and it's kind of just, it is what it is. Other times people, when it comes to social commentary, they really beat you over the head with it, and you cannot enjoy the film.
Right.
Movies like this, movies like the Romero stuff, you can watch those movies just for what they are. Zombie movie. You can watch this alien invasion movie. But there's so much more beneath the surface that you could dig into if you choose to. You don't have to. I like to go deeper. It's that's what she said. But yes. Yeah, you know what? Roddy Piper is credited as Nada because that's the name of the character in 8 o'clock in the morning, the short story. But in the movie, he actually never says his name. No one calls him by his name. No one, nothing. And it's something that you don't even pick up on. You don't notice that they never say his name.
Yeah, that is something I didn't pick up on until recently, actually.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to see a lot of people, too. Some of these names in the credits are going to be frequent collaborators of John Carpenter. Keith David, of course, from The Thing.
George Buckflower. Peter Jason.
And I do have to point out Meg Foster in this movie, who, to me, the two big films that I grew up watching her in were this and He-Man, Masters of the Universe. She had these beautiful eyes. I actually got a chance to meet her a couple of years back. It was right after Jeepers Creepers 3 came out. And everyone hates that movie. I thought it was fine. And I had a chance to meet her. And she was so... when she asked me what I did for a living, at the time I was still writing, covering the politics. And when I told her, she just got all this energy, and she gave me a huge hug, and she wouldn't let me go, and she would hold my arm and was talking to me and chatting away. I got a bunch of pictures of us just interacting and talking, and a really nice lady, and she does a fantastic job in this film, as does really everybody else.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm
really,
trying to
great job.
Trying to think if this one has one bad performance, and I can't really think of one that's necessarily bad.
No, I think everyone really plays their roles well. Obviously, Piper, Keith David, and Meg Foster are really your top three.
And I
But
feel
George Buck Flowers is great in this, especially because he has a complete character change at one point.
oh yeah, and
I love the blind preacher.
funny enough, with George Buckflower, with his performance in here, I didn't even realize that he was the same character the first time I watched it.
Yeah, it took me a little bit as I got a little older.
It wasn't until the second time I watched it, I'm like, holy shit, he made a complete 180. And
yeah,
because I remember the first time watching it later on, why is he not so, why is he just so welcoming? And you guys later will see exactly what I'm talking about there. But from what we see here in the beginning, it makes a lot more sense. Like, oh, that's why he was so buddy-buddy with them and not all on the mad defensive.
Yeah.
We did get a little shout out to Denver, Colorado there. So love for Denver, Colorado.
Here's the blind preacher. I love little things like this. Just these little, in movies, when you get kind of these side characters, they can be very memorable.
Oh, yeah.
And I dig it. I think he plays the role really well. And, of course, Roddy Piper just sees this here to kick off the film. And it's and he kind of just writing him off as this Looney Tune, you know? A black preacher. Just like the black preacher in Dawn.
And you got Johnny Law not liking this demonstration here.
No, and at first, you see the cops coming in, you go, oh, the cops are there probably just because he's causing trouble. But then as we see later on, it's because those cops are not really cops and they want to stop him from, drawing any attention to what he shouldn't be drawing attention to.
All right, if you want to see what lies beneath, folks, you got to have them ready.
Yeah. I just love this idea that this neighborhood, this is so 80s, where really the poverty in the streets was so bad. It's really, people like the younger folks can't comprehend. It was so terrible. Poverty was so bad. Just the idea of burning barrels and living in the street, looking through somebody's window to watch TV, that seems so ridiculous, but it's something that kind of happened,
Right. Aiden wants to know, what is Carpenter's most underrated film? Aiden goes vampires. I might have to say In the Mouth of Madness, maybe.
Man, that's one of the, I think there's 3 Carpenter films I haven't seen, and I still haven't seen that, even though I own the Blu-ray.
Oh man, if you like that, something that'll make you think and has a little dose of Lovecraft to it, definitely check out In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah.
Looking over here, trying to see. I would also go as far as to say Starman too is pretty underrated.
Yeah.
Severely overlooked.
Well, let me ask you, if I'll give mine, then you shout back. My Carpenter Mount Rushmore. I'm going to be doing a series on my YouTube channel where I'm going to be calling it my Mount Rushmore of, and it'll be of a topic of a franchise, whatever. So my Mount Rushmore for John Carpenter would be, maybe in no particular order, really, I guess, but They Live, Halloween, The Thing, and The Fog.
Yeah, mine's pretty close to that. Of course, you got Halloween, They Live, The Thing also, but in place of The Fog, I would have to go either In the Mouth of Madness or Assault on Precinct 13.
Okay.
But yeah,
it's hard, right? Escape from New York is,
see, it's like you say a bunch and then you realize how many you left off. It's like, well, what am I going to replace for another one?
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're like, you're naming off all 23 Carpenter films.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, that's pretty much how it would be for me. Of course, I still haven't seen everything he's done.
Yeah.
I still need to watch The Ward, Memoirs. his Masters of Horror episodes that he did.
Oh man, yeah. Cigarette burns.
Yeah, Cigarette Burns and Pro-Life.
Yes. So this is the first interaction between Piper and Keith David, and I like the line that he says here. I love it, where Keith David sees that Roddy Piper's struggling. They're kind of just working in this little a construction job, and Keith David, the nice guy, says, "Oh, I know a place where you can get shower food." And Roddy Piper doesn't even acknowledge him. He just kind of follows him from a distance, and that's when Keith David, as we just saw before, stops and says, "I don't like a guy following me." And Roddy Piper responds with, "I don't follow anyone unless I see where he's going." I love that line.
Right. It's a very smart human aspect just to add to the character, and that's one thing you really see in a lot of Carpenter films. The characters that he incorporates are very much like people that you would meet in your daily life.
Yeah.
And just gives them the little nuances that really make them feel more alive.
Yeah.
I tried so hard to not make it feel as though they live, just trying to avoid that pun. Oh man. Yeah, having not been around in the 80s, I was always aware of the visuals of 80s poverty, but of course, as a kid growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, that was kind of something that you only saw in the movies as far as I knew. So to hear that it really was like this at a time.
In a lot of places it was. And this is, these conversations that they're having, in this one right here, Keith David is kind of just telling Piper how, the system sucks, how the system's holding people down, and Roddy Piper's just kind of taking it in, and he just responds with, "Oh, I believe in the American dream, hard work, the door will open up eventually."
It's got that American optimism that we all have had that thought at least one point.
Yeah, and then, as the movie goes on, that thought in Piper's head, that foundation starts to crack.
Yeah, once you see all the little system loopholes, and very, very reminiscent of the real world too, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because there's a lot in this movie that is realistic. A lot of the themes are realistic, but of course it's done in a way that is over the top and ridiculous. But that's what movies are. Sometimes people take films too seriously. Every film is different. Not every film is grounded 100% in reality. Some have more realistic themes, but then the way it's presented is not realistic. You just have to go into each film with different expectations and knowing that just because something happens on screen that wouldn't happen in real life, who cares? There's more to it than just that. Film is like art. Not every painting you see is a realistic painting. It doesn't mean it's a bad painting.
Right.
This is just so depressing, right?
Dude, absolutely. And especially when you do realize, like you were saying, that it really was like this at a point in some areas. And
yeah.
Being that this is supposed to be Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And totally buy that.
There's George Buck Flowers with the hat on. And what they're seeing on TV here is we'll find out a little later, this is a signal that's getting interrupted, that is interrupting the main program. And of course, as they're watching this signal, their eyes are starting to hurt, they're getting a headache, and all that kind of gets explained a little later on.
Definitely got to go out again and say this movie is a lot more relevant today than it feels a lot more relevant than it would have been in '88, man.
Yep. And that film like this is just it's timeless. It's the timeless film. And I love it, man. I love the framing of these shots of close up to the TV. It almost gives you a headache watching it.
Oh, yeah. And that is probably the most Buck Flower line of the film right there.
I just had my son watch with me over the last couple of weeks the Back to the Future trilogy. And George Buck Flowers played another homeless guy in that movie named Red the Bum. He was always the bum that anytime that Michael J. Fox kind of went back to 1985, he would see Red the Bum laying on the bench, and that was George Buck Flowers.
Yeah, I think his nickname, like jokingly and lightheartedly, was like the richest homeless man in Hollywood, or the most famous man in Hollywood, most famous homeless man in Hollywood, or something like that. And of course, that just has to do with his knack of playing that kind of homeless role all too well.
That's right.
It's like, you need a homeless man or an alcoholic for your film, just call George Buckflower.
That's right. Indeed. Of course, Nada here starts to hear, some singing in the church. And this is when we really kind of start to get introduced into Gilbert, who's kind of the head person here with this, I guess you can call it, I mean, it's not a shelter. I guess it's an outdoor shelter. Like a homeless shelter, an organized outdoor shelter, I suppose, right?
Yeah, I'd maybe say compound.
Yeah.
Then a compound implies like armed militia afoot and whatnot, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really blows my mind that he was one of the detectives in I think it was the Nice Dreams Cheech and Chong film.
Oh, really?
I was one of the ones who's constantly spying on them throughout that movie. So that was a nice
funny.
little thing to pick up on that. I think Peter Jason actually has the highest level of contributions with John Carpenter as far as actors go.
Oh, really?
I was looking at that a little recently, and I would have expected Kurt Russell would have had most of the credits,
Yeah, it says here 7 Carpenter films. 7 of them. Wow, right?
That is insane, man.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. He's the football coach in Arachnophobia. I love that movie.
Huh. That's one I haven't seen since I was a kid.
Oh man, great stuff. I rewatched it. I have it on DVD, but I was just laying in bed a couple of weeks back. I didn't want to get up and just going through YouTube, and YouTube is really loading up with their free movie selection.
Right.
That is one of them.
I might have to give that a rewatch for sure. I remember being absolutely terrified of every fucking spider I saw after watching that.
I remember as a kid, my favorite scene, you got to see the daughter in the shower, and there's a tarantula going down her chest, and you saw like her boobs here.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Being, 8, 9, 10 years old seeing that, I love that shit. Holy gosh. But I digress. So this is, Piper finally makes his way into the church, and he starts to see that this church is not exactly, fit for Sunday service.
Not at all.
Not exactly a choir in there. It's all a front for something else.
I think that's really a brilliant idea, too. I think just the whole way they set that up. from a filmmaking perspective.
Yep. Uh-oh. And that one little slip, what does that reveal? A game changer in the movie. A secret, not so much a secret passage, but a secret hiding spot. What the hell are they hiding in there? What could it be?
Boxes. My money is on porn. They're hiding porn in the church.
I like that. That's a good idea.
No one would ever think to look there.
Well, nowadays, probably be the top spot to look. Boom, preacher. So this was, you kind of see that he's trying to see what kind of guy he is. Who is this?
Right. You definitely needs to know who's he looking at, for lack of a better word.
The blind man, he knows what's up. He can see.
So I almost want to go out on a limb and ask, would the sunglasses affect the preacher?
No, he couldn't see. So Jordan Buckflower's there, really kind of questioning what's been going on. Keith David, he doesn't want to admit, well, he doesn't want to admit to himself that, shit's kind of hitting the fan. Things are uncomfortable.
Like he seems to be the one who almost knows the most just how fucked up everything is without being directly involved in the resistance.
Yeah,
but
like he wants to complain, but he doesn't want to rattle the cage too much.
Right. Yeah, like he's aware, but there's definitely a strong case of denial for Keith David throughout the film.
Yes.
Like, just kind of wants to live his life and hope to God that he can get by without shit getting too crazy for him.
Here we go. They have such good chemistry together.
Oh, yeah.
I wish Piper could have worked with Carpenter again. But, at that time with the wrestling schedule, I mean, those guys were... Piper stepped away from wrestling for a while after this. He didn't come back to full-time wrestling until around the summer of '89. He came back WrestleMania 5, so about 2 years later, and then he kind of got back in the ring towards the end of the year, and then did that. So this was a break for him. He was burnt out. I mean, he had wrestled through the 70s, really through the early 80s, mid 80s, big. Really, he was on top. Making right when Hulk Hogan came big in '84. Right after that, Piper was the big nemesis, selling at Madison Square Garden. They were on opposite sides of the main event at WrestleMania, the first WrestleMania. So, he kind of just wanted to do something different, and he found something that worked.
Oh, yeah. Oh, quick. Aiden says, I even sort of like Ghosts of Mars. I give Carpenter credit for making a heavy metal siege western film on Mars.
I watched Ghost of Mars for the first time last year. I went and I got a bunch of the Carpenter movies I hadn't seen. I watched a lot of movies last year. Obviously, we weren't doing much about anything else. And I thought it was fine. I know a lot of people really killed it. I went into it probably with really low expectations. I don't think it was great, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's one I still need to see. Also, just haven't gotten around to it, and again, kind of have the lower expectations, having heard that the last few films that he did were really just him going through the motions, and I'm sure he would admit that too if you asked him. Like, basically, I open my hand, they drop a check, I go back and continue watching college basketball. I think that was more specifically his thoughts on remakes of his films.
Yes. This is a big scene. This is when the police, obviously they've been tipped off by somebody. They really wreak havoc here. You know, they really just kind of go all out.
Hey, Mega Movie Z, how you doing?
Hey.
All right. Interesting that Carp is a Metallica fan. Or someone being born in the 40s, you would not expect that. Yeah, I mean, Carpenter is a gamer too, though, so it's...
And he is a music guy.
He is a man who defies his generation, for sure. I gotta say, definitely, though, hearing that John Carpenter likes to play video games was like the biggest mind blow out of just the whole bunch of every bit of trivia behind him. It's like, yeah, I like all the, like, he plays Fallout and whatnot, so that was just really crazy to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, he actually wrote a Joker one-shot comic about like 2 years ago.
Huh.
Well, it was Joker, You're the Villain. That's pretty cool. Kind of dips his toes in everything, huh?
Oh yeah, it's a man who he's a man who could do anything he wanted to, and I like to say he could do no wrong, but I don't know, man. There've been a couple rough patches, career-wise for him. We got.
Yeah, I mean, his later stuff is questionable, like most directors, and for a lot of reasons. Maybe they're not as motivated. Maybe there's too many studio restraints. Maybe the game has just changed so much, technically.
Right.
I mean, looking at the this is such a great scene. But as we're going through here, just kind of looking at the Carpenter filmography.
I know a lot of his films really hit a kind of a rough patch where they just weren't doing so well critically, and I think it embittered him a little bit, and he kind of got pretty indignant toward the later half of his filmography, I think.
I think think In the Mouth of Madness is probably the last one to kind of just be viewed as, universally, I don't know, maybe not so much praise, but just accepted as good film.
Right.
I like the remake of Village of the Damned. I think it's fun. I think part of that is because I was so young when I saw it. It was a movie that was on a lot, and I remember taping it on VHS.
I mean, Superman was in it too, so that being
one of his last movies, Kirstie Alley as well. I think John Carpenter's Vampires is decent. But you know what? Like, having the response of, that's pretty good. It's decent. It's fine. For somebody like John Carpenter, that's not exactly praise.
Right.
Yeah.
And cause he's like, I'm the guy who made fucking Halloween, for crying out loud. He peaked pretty early on, so I think has a lot to do with the, I don't want to call it a downward spiral, but the dip in quality and positive response to the films he was doing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys, there's not a lot of them after the 90s really pumped out. I mean, after the 80s, so into the 90s, not a lot of them put out stuff that were big game changers. I mean, Wes Craven might be an outlier, striking it with Scream.
Oh yeah.
But I like a lot of kind of the later stuff that Romero did, but it wasn't films that was universally accepted and praised really as game changers. Toby Hooper is another one that I think is, there's kind of there's four horror filmmakers that, at least growing up, that were they were grouped together. It was Craven, Carpenter, Romero, and Hooper. And I always kind of saw Hooper like at the bottom.
Yeah, it's
because he had Texas Chainsaw, and then there was also Poltergeist. But then after that, I mean, Eaten Alive, The Funhouse,
1/3 of Body Bags.
Yeah, you like that filmography doesn't really hold up with the rest, in my opinion. I still like
not at all.
But it's not like, is his filmography really on the level? Like, I could name 5, 6, 7 movies from the other three like that are like 4-star plus movies.
Yeah, see, like me, I would go as far as to, and it's no disrespect to Toby Hooper, but I would maybe put Cronenberg in place of Hooper when it comes to the four big names.
It's interesting that I think part of that, two things. Number one, Cronenberg really branched out into films outside of the horror genre. So I don't think people look at him as a horror director anymore.
Right,
and
right.
I also think it's, when they think about it, they think of like American horror.
Oh, yeah.
And Cronenberg's Canadian.
Yeah, I forget that every time, man. And it's the Dead Zone is why I always think that, oh, he's an American guy. Because the Dead Zone is a very American-centric movie.
Yeah, but I mean, Cronenberg, geesh. You're talking Shivers and Rabid and Videodrome and The Brood, Scanners.
All right, it's got a...
Here's the big thing here. Getting back to They Live. So this is the morning after that giant raid, which is really intense, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he finds out, he takes one of these boxes that was hidden in that underground... the hidden passage, rather. And
right.
This is where things really start to pick up.
This is the part where it's becoming the, you could say the trailer parts of the film, for sure. But
yeah.
It's like a box of sunglasses. The hell's the big deal about that?
I want to also point out the simplicity, but also the effectiveness of the score of this movie. Dun 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 dun. So basic. Couple of keys on the keyboard, right?
Oh yeah.
But so effective. It's not this like not this craziness, which would not fit this movie. This movie
not at all.
Is a smaller scale. It's very American. It's very humble.
It has a very blue collar sound to it.
The score of this movie, that theme, fits this character of Nada. Simple,
oh yeah.
Basic, but effective.
The bluesy sound to it gives it a real blue collar vibe, which it describes Roddy Piper's character almost to a T. It's like
so what he's seeing here, he's putting on these glasses, and it's really, he's able to reveal what's going on.
Come to the Caribbean. Pop on them glasses, marry and reproduce.
So all of this stuff that you see in the glasses were all matte paintings.
Yep.
And I think really effective. I think making them black and white really works.
Yeah.
Obviously, one for the visual to separate the real world and the visual of the glasses. But also when you're working with matte paintings, especially the stuff like in the distance with the buildings and stuff, if it's not done right, and even when it's done right at times, like this, like a shot we're seeing here of the city, it could look really corny and it can take the viewer out of the film.
Right.
But when you do black and white, it just dummies it down a little bit and it makes it more simplistic as well. So you can kind of get away with it. That's actually what I did when I got a camera and was able to do some short films. I didn't have proper lighting. I only worked with some natural lighting, and it was very minimal. So
Right.
when I would shoot some scenes, it looked like I was just walking around with a camcorder. And it looked cheap and it looked terrible. So I shot everything in black and white and it looked a little bit better. And, you know, that's reflective here as well. So everything that Piper's seeing is just really uncovering the plan by whoever is kind of in charge here. Consume, money is God.
Obey. I actually put some of those in the description box down below.
Yeah.
I could not resist. Aiden says Toby Hooper got screwed over by the industry. He has a lot of cool, weird films that he could personally understand why they were not classics, but still likes those films.
Hooper did some cool stuff, but I just don't think it's on the level of the filmography of some of these other people. Now, every time that you see Piper looking at somebody and you see the aliens now, the alien look, that's all the same actor. I believe it was a stuntman.
Yeah, that actually surprised me when I found that out, because
that was the stuntman, right?
Yeah, I forget the name of the fellow who did it.
Japanese.
Honestly, I can't remember every detail about that, but I do know that it was indeed one guy, and it was really because they only had one mask.
Yeah.
I think it had something to do with the quality and consistency of the mask.
Mm-hmm.
And you got John Carpenter doing the voiceover here, telling us to sleep.
Props to Aiden, by the way. I'll mention it every time he comments on that we do a stream together, for his little avatar icon of George Romero's Bruiser.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I remember you were pointing that out. I think it was when we did Night of the Living Dead, actually.
Yep, I will always point that out because not enough people talk about Bruiser.
Honestly, it almost looks like a different take on the William Shatner shaped mask.
Yeah, it's interesting. Cool.
Of course, that's the Halloween fanboy in me saying that.
I know he just commented about how he really liked Funhouse, and he said one of the biggest complaints is that it's slow, and it is really slow. And I like slow burns, but there's part of the Funhouse where it's really a slog. But there's some cool stuff in Funhouse. I like just the overall vibe of, the amusement park stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And kind of the face reveal of the monster is really cool.
Yeah,
Scream Factory has a good release of it, if anyone's a fan of it.
I do have that sitting in my Amazon cart right now. I've been told constantly that I would dig that, and it is the glorious moderator crew member who's been telling me that, and usually he's pretty good at gauging my tastes, so definitely gotta take into consideration that. But I do like just the little bits how you're seeing these real people and they're talking. It's just, there was one exchange here about, hey, you'll get the promotion next time if you work harder, and it's one of the aliens as a higher level executive at whatever the hell job it is they have, telling his normal human coworker, "Hey, if you work harder, you'll get it." Just the whole way that the aliens carry themselves.
I love his little
so shitty.
I love his remark to the lady. You look like you formaldehyde face. You look like your head fell in the cheese dip back in 1958, 7, whatever it was.
Yes. I love it.
For those that are interested, the Scream Factory Blu-ray on Amazon at $20.95. That's the price. Well worth it. This is great stuff. Talking into his Apple Watch.
Yes, very nice bit of foresight there. But I mean, 80% of this movie is foresight to some degree. So
yes.
This part here, though, like putting perfume on a pig.
That's it.
I gotta say, the guy who had to wear the mask throughout this film, probably the hardest working actor.
Right?
Fucking had to sit in the makeup chair how many times just to get his hair and costume redid.
Yeah.
Probably had to get the face reapplied.
That was not fun, I'm sure. Hey, for a $3 million budget, man, I mean, even then, that wasn't a lot of money. They made it work. And there you go, Piper with the clothesline, pulling out his wrestling move. Now, a lot of these comments, these one-liners, these zingers, especially the "I've come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum." Those are Piper just writing down insults and shit that he had used in his wrestling career that he gave to Carpenter, and Carpenter was like, "Okay."
Yeah,
sure,
I think.
why the hell not? Fucking great.
I think John was saying something about how a lot of them were a little too cheesy, even for the 1980s and a film like this.
Yeah, so I'm sure he just went with the ones that he thought were cool, and we're like, all right, go for it.
Of course, the bubblegum one was one of the big winners. I mean,
yeah, that's the one everyone knows.
It's like you kind of know the line even before you see the movie.
Yes.
Or you hear it in some variation. So when you do see the movie for the first time, you're like, man, I know that line.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Such great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's his Apple Watch, right? His Google Watch.
Oh, yeah. Mama don't like tattletales.
Yeah, that's an Apple Watch. Android ain't doing that. Look at that. You know, so this is some of the funny stuff that, you know, we talked about how, you know, a lot of times in movies, like, you just have to suspend disbelief, don't take it too serious. Like, this guy's just, like, walking around with a fucking shotgun. Like, like it's nothing.
Right.
Gets away with everything fairly easily.
You got to remember, this was before you had a camera on every street corner, though.
Well, apparently here they had drones.
That is very true. Like I'm looking at that.
I love this line. He goes, "Beat your feet." I've used that so many times over the years. Beat your feet.
beat your feet. I can't help but feel that cop looks like a kind of like a mix of no, what the hell is his name? He looks like the one cat. I want to say Roger from Dawn of the Dead mixed with Gerald Ford just a little bit.
It didn't even click in my head, man. Where I'm looking right here, we see Meg Foster. Nice little backside on her. Not so much now, but back in '88. This movie is an hour and 34 minutes. We are just about 44 minutes in, and we're just seeing her now. And that just clicked to me now. Like, I always look at her as a major star in the movie. She's only in half the movie.
Yeah, she doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, really. One of the favorite John Carpenter films and rare example of wrestler turned actor was really good. And yeah, we were actually saying something about that earlier, and that's pretty good assessment of that one for sure. Bruiser honestly deserves a Blu-ray. There's so much to love about that film.
It really does. I'm hoping that eventually we get stuff from that. If there's any, this is just kind of a quick plug, not for me. You can go check it online on the website on Facebook called GARF, the George A. Romero Foundation. And it's really run by Sue Romero, his wife, and a lot of cool people. There's a guy named Matt Blasey, who I'm friends with on Facebook, who runs a lot of stuff with that, where they're really just getting old Romero stuff back out there, and a lot of things that hadn't been seen prior, kind of unearthed and restored. He's a huge fan. I know Matt is, of Bruiser, so I haven't heard anything from him, but I'm thinking that a Bruiser kind of restoration or a re-release could be possible.
Oh yeah.
Look at that guy in his Hawaiian shirt with his flowers all over the place. He does not look like a guy that just has a garden and friggin' on his deck.
Not at all. He kind of looks like one of those on the Sunday paper, whenever you get the two images back to back, like, or side by side, spot the 12 differences, whatever.
Yeah.
Like he looks like something that would be in that segment of the paper.
Yes.
I would love to see Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China fight alongside Piper and Keith David in this movie. That almost feels like a natural trio right there.
Yeah. Now you're seeing the effects. You can put these glasses on and you can see everything, but the longer you have them on, the after effects are a terrible headache. Very similar to the headache that they were receiving by watching the interruptions on the TV broadcast.
Right. It's a nice little concept and adds I don't want to say realism, but it adds a sense of everything's not so hunky-dory about it.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
I'm pretty sure the explanation also given, not an explanation, but that the contacts prevent the headaches.
Yeah, it was I think a lot of that just had to do with I forget exactly why.
Is different.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just had to do with something about shooting the actors later on in the film with so much action and the sunglasses, night scenes. Probably would have been too reflective at some points.
So they kind of just said, "Oh, put contacts in. I'll give you," and that's how they explain away the headache. Why is everybody so restrictive for putting the glasses on? Like, just put the fucking glasses on. It takes 2 seconds. Why? Like, you're acting like putting the glasses on is like a deadly disease or something. Oh, I can't do it.
Right.
This guy just essentially kidnapped you. Just put them on.
It's like you listen to him, everything he says up until that point. It's like she was so receptive to everything else he was telling her to do. Drive. Let me in your house. Both of which were fine and dandy.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not
He had
going
a
to.
longer term plan.
It's like, no, I'm not going to try on your sunglasses.
Yeah.
But real quick, just noticing your Lords of Salem poster back there.
Yeah. I got
Meg
that.
Foster was in Lords of Salem.
Yeah, she was, and she was very good in that.
Absolutely.
I opted for the pink background. There was different colors. And the reason why I got the pink is because I have the Blu-ray that has the yellow background.
Right.
And I have the novel that has the blue background. So I said, what the hell? Lords of Salem, underrated as hell, man. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
It is a gorgeous movie, and that's a poster, man. That's a great shot.
Absolutely.
I think that's Sherry Moon's best acting performance, in my opinion.
Oh, easily. Easily.
I know a lot of people would say Baby, but that's kind of just over the top in one note. This, I think, has a little more depth. I got the Fog poster. Check this one out real quick. This is a good one. This is a Evil Dead. Look at that one.
Oh, nice.
All right, look at that.
Dude, that is beautiful.
This is good stuff. So I got got some cool stuff in this room. I got good feng shui, everything very symmetrical. Oh, and here's Roddy Piper taking a wine glass to the head and taking the huge bump, as the wrestlers would say, out of the window and all the way to the ground. Piper is down.
Oh, man.
With
Yes,
the
sir.
deadly shot with the foreign object by Meg Foster. And look at those beautiful eyes. Those eyes are gorgeous. Nowadays, she's looking rough, but those eyes are still sweet.
It's funny, though, because that was actually the segue I was getting into with the Lords of Salem real fast. Like,
That wasn't makeup. I saw her in person. It's not good. It's rough stuff. It's unfortunate. It's rough.
Yeah, I saw her. I think it was the picture on her Wikipedia profile just kind of shows just how much lack of grace there was to her aging. But can't all win. I mean, Carpenter looked 60 when he was in his 40s.
Yeah, some people age early. Like Steve Martin, like he got that white hair and looked old as fuck when he was like 40 something, and now he looks the same.
Yeah, he finally looks his age.
Yeah.
Like I remember thinking that he was born in the 30s whenever I was growing up. Like, oh well, he was born in the 40s, so not too different. But
yeah,
he was one I always thought was a lot older than he was.
Well, Meg Foster now is 72. She's gonna turn 73. So I mean,
oh wow,
it's not like she's in her early 50s and she's like, I mean, she's in her 70s. I mean, we gotta cut her a little bit of a break, I guess.
Absolutely. Lords of Salem is awesome. Might be my favorite Rob Zombie film, says Aiden. Yeah, I think that's about my second favorite Rob Zombie film. It was just by a fucking nut hair too, man. Just by a nut hair.
Yeah.
Only great Rob Zombie movie 2, in my opinion, other than Devil's Rejects.
Devil's Rejects is rough, man. It's I mean, rough in a good way. That's not a movie you just can't like a movie like this I can throw on and have fun with. Like I can't just throw on Devil's Rejects and just like being like watch for enjoyment. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like some movies are just tough. They're the hotel scene,
Oh yeah, that's fucking rough to get through. I mean, when I was a carefree teenager growing up, I was able to watch the Devil's Rejects every day, but now that I've gotten only a few years older, I'm already at that point where it's like, whew, I don't know if I can sit through it right now. I gotta really be in the mood for it nowadays.
Roddy Piper here, or Nada, I should say, has some fucking balls. Like, he's out there, like, just walking around. Like, how did he get back to the construction site? Right there. Other people are all behind Keith David working. Like, nobody knows who's going. It's so funny how he's just...
Right. Right. Oh, it's crazy how Sean Connery looked in the early Bond films. He was only like 30 and looked so damn mature looking. Yeah, that generation, I don't know, there was something in the water, man. Did not preserve them as well as it does today. And Chris met J.J. Dillon from the Four Horsemen last weekend, and he still looks exactly how he did in the 80s.
J.J. Dillon, yeah. Him and Arn Anderson, both, they looked, 40 when, 45 when they were like 30, 25. When Arn Anderson was 25, he looked 40. He had the bald.
Oh, man.
Arn looks almost exactly the same. A little heavier, that's about it. But JJ, yeah, looks exactly the same. That's cool that you met JJ Dillon. One of the best managers ever, man. Great talker. A definite wrestling legend.
Here's an interesting scene with the trash truck picking up everything. Got to go in and get those sunglasses. And
this is a great shot. Isn't that a great shot?
It is a great shot, but it's probably the most aggravating part of the whole film, because it's like, you just picked up the trash. Why are you dumping it here? Only 50 feet away from where you picked it up.
Yeah, right. That's true.
It's like, was trash-ridden alley an aesthetic of the 80s that was supposed to be met by some city mandate?
The 80s was I'm telling you, man, it's just rough times, bro.
This makes you wonder. Here we go. Here's where you see Keith David's character is not such a bad guy. You can tell he's
a good guy. He's just thinks Roddy Nada is a little bit wacky, and Keith David knows things aren't fair, but he is afraid to push anyone too far because he doesn't want to put any more pressure on his life, and he doesn't want to take any more chances. His head is above water, and he's afraid if he rocks the boat too much, he's going to drown.
Right.
And that's a way a lot of people feel.
And I know a few guys that are like Keith David's character in real life. They're one little slip up, and they're, like you said, they're drowning at that point. Hardworking guys trying to get by.
Yeah.
But Q, one of the most interesting fights in film history, right?
One of the best fights in film history, because it's not phony. It's not over exaggerated. And even though this movie had, like we talked about, listen, there's a lot in this movie that is grounded in like realistic themes, and there's a lot in the execution that is not realistic. This is just a fight between two men, real men. They got calluses on their hands, and they build shit, and they fix shit, and they got dirt under their fingernails that need to be cleaned. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
They smell their men. You know what I mean, right?
Oh yeah. I could almost see this now that you put all that description in there.
This fight.
Like, you put all that description into there, and I could actually almost see this in some kind of commercial. Just for what exactly, I'm not sure. Maybe for men's body wash after kicking your buddy's ass all afternoon. Then cue the brand name, whatever, you know.
I mean, like complete with like flannel and the Levi 555s or whatever, you know, whatever it is.
Put them on. And see, I like how the whole fight too is really half of it's over the fucking glasses. A refusal to put on the glasses. I feel like that could have been an alternate title for the film. For the love of God, wear my glasses. Oh, that was a wicked slam there.
Look at that. Ugh. They, if anyone has that Blu-ray, man, this is great. A great scene for Carpenter and Piper to talk over.
All right, because I know the only way Carpenter really wrote this was just for every different page in the script. It just said the fight continues. He only mentioned that they were fighting, and I think Keith David and Roddy Piper just worked on all the choreography for it, and really just figured out how they were going to fight. And Carpenter's like, "Hey, you guys know what you're doing. I'm just gonna sit here and let you guys fight it out."
Yep.
So it was really all them. So I think that helps give it that feel of authenticity.
Yes, I agree. Ugh. I love that they start to laugh because it just makes it just makes it feel more personal.
Right. Like, they don't hate each other. Sure, there's a little bit of maliciousness going on at this point.
I never noticed this now. But there's a gash on the back of Keith David's head. Oh,
yeah.
Legs.
Yeah, it does not look like it feels very good on the back of Keith's head right there.
I never noticed that before. Probably because I was watching, growing up, you watch it on a 20-inch tube TV.
Right.
On the, on the VHS. You have these Blu-rays on these 4K or even just regular HD TVs, 55-inch, 50-inch. There you go.
And that's another thing too I love about this fight. It's every time you think it's over, it's like, no, this fight's far from over. It's still got a whole other level to go to before it's over. It's almost like Carpenter giving you a master class in how he uses tension in his horror films. It's like, we're going to give you some, and then we're going to bring it back. And this fight, I think, does that in its own self-contained way.
Yeah. Now, I'm just thinking of this now. I've never thought about it before. Those drones, are those only visible to those who have glasses on?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because how would they explain drones around to people in the 80s? It would make no sense.
Right, yeah, because they'd be like, what the hell are we living in? Fucking Star Wars?
Yep. Really, right?
And this is a transition that's really nice, too. You got... In any other film, these guys would be walking happy and healthy looking. Like, these two just came out of an 8-minute fight.
Yes.
And they look like they just came out of an 8-minute fight. Any other movie, they'd look, hey, good as new. And they, coming up these stairs, you can feel the aches and pains that they've got going on.
Yeah, look at especially Piper. Look at the way his whole body language is different. His arms are sunk in. It's so good. It's just so funny. He plays it so well. He plays it so well. Oh, and those headaches.
Feel like a knife turning in your skull.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I would not like to see a remake to this, I can't help but be fascinated as to how exactly they would pull it off. Because for one, the budget would be increased. It'd probably be $100 million picture.
It wouldn't have the magic. They'd overdo it. It'd be too well polished, and it wouldn't feel the same. It's funny. Here's another thing I just picked up on. So they're in LA,
Right.
And they just like casually walked into a hotel. They're broke as shit. But recently, I watched a documentary on Netflix called "The Hotel Cecil," and it's about a woman who went missing for days, and they found her dead, like in a water tank. And they they talked about like all the other tragedies and crazy shit that happened in the hotel, and this was like a poor hotel. And back then, especially in the 80s, like people would just go there, pay a couple of dollars just to fuck or whatever, or crash for a night. But then you had other people that were just living there. So it's really very plausible for these guys, even him on the run, to just get a room and no one gives a shit.
Right. Yeah. That's something you'll actually see if you go back and watch certain 80s films. That was like almost an 80s trope, if you will. Like if you got a hotel, you always got the guys who seem to actually live there. And you would almost you would almost think it's an apartment. Like I think in the Blues Brothers, actually, I think that's where Dan Aykroyd's character is living as a hotel. Or it might be an apartment, but it feels like a hotel.
Yeah.
Just the structure and the receptionist desk and whatnot. But it's one of those things. It's like it's an 80s-ism, if you will.
Yeah. Keith David, I remember him in Something About Mary.
Yep. Yeah,
Ben Stiller with his nuts caught in the zipper.
Yeah, I remember watching that recently, and I'm like, "Fuck me sideways." That's Childs there.
I'm looking through his filmography, and he's been very busy, man.
He does a lot of voice work now, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe.
Good to see that he's keeping busy. He was I haven't watched. I've only watched like one episode of the new Creep Show that's on Shudder, but he's in one of these episodes apparently. Good for him. Good for him. It's nice to see him getting out there. That's good.
Got the return of Peter Jason here. Oh man, but yeah, it's really hard to believe that Keith David only did 2 Carpenter films. The 2 that he did, I mean, are absolutely phenomenal. Like 2 of Carpenter's masterworks of the 80s, being this and The Thing. But you really could almost feel that he would have worked with him at least a couple more times. Would have been nice to see him. Hey, Toronto Freddy, how you doing? Came here to chew bubblegum and kick some ass, and you are all out of bubblegum. So are we, man. Ate it all before the show.
So here, you know, we're getting into the third act of this.
Got a new headquarters base. I don't know if this place was actually running in tandem with the church front that they had, but it seems like they're
no, it is. It is. You'll see Gilbert here soon.
definitely a larger piece here for sure.
This is kind of you know, their next step. So yeah, here's the context, and I think she mentions here about the no headaches. Here's your Cheech and Chong right there. Right?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it such a ripoff that guy in Friday the 13th 3 was such a blatant ripoff of Cheech and Chong?
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. I mean, I remember watching a Cheech and Chong movie one time, and I'm like, is that the guy from Friday the 13th Part 3? And then start to see that there's more Cheech and Chong than there is Friday the 13th Part 3, obviously. And you know, look at the timeline, it's like, oh, bad Friday. Bad.
Yeah.
Really realizing just how deep in it they are at this point.
Oh yeah, there's no turning back now. No turning back at all.
Could you imagine stumbling upon this though, and
oh no way,
just trying to continue to go back to the ignorance is bliss type lifestyle, trying to pretend you didn't know nothing about it?
Like you said, man, they're too far in the forest to turn back. Oh wow! So yep. So that's one of their watches. So where what? Really, just talking about how they're just so overrun. There's just not enough of them. That the kind of hostile takeover is just overwhelming.
It's like humanity's going out with a whimper and they don't even know it. And that guy almost looks like a store brand Chevy Chase who riled everybody up there.
See, Gilbert's smart though. You know, the other guy's like, let's go out there and shoot shit. Like, okay, you and like your 30 friends against how many? Like, no, stop it. It's clearly not the right decision.
Like when the numbers are small, you definitely gotta play smarter than harder. Oh, I wish, man. I wish. I think it's just because I used to get blasted so much. I look perpetually blasted now. Did a little too hard partying every now and again. That and so into the film that it just I get drunk on it, man.
Let me ask you this with Meg Foster. With Meg Foster, do you, if you're trying to look at this objectively as a new viewer, do you think Meg Foster ends up, turning on all them at the end? Because I think she plays it off so well here that you think she's just part of them. It's played off as, you know what? She's just going to be the love interest with Roddy Piper, and they're going to survive. Especially with this explosion.
Right, yeah, it is a pretty interesting timing there.
Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of did catch me off guard, but at the same time, after thinking about it for a second, it felt like it made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, if they'd had her in the film a little more, I think it would have had a lot more impact. It's just as little screen time as we get from Meg Foster, it just feels a little too contrived.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, but they are just, they really, it comes out at the end that obviously, what Buck Flowers and Foster kind of tipped them all off.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it really kind of makes you, again, you're like, after the reveal, you feel okay, you're surprised for like 5 seconds, and then you kind of nod off like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I love how it's just like casually with machine guns. Oh, I love that kill. That guy goes like this.
Oh yeah.
Great stuff. That's a cool, when you're looking at it, it's obviously a set. But it looks good, man. And I love the cinematography and kind of like the color palette here. The lighting. It's good. It works.
And this was I think this was after he stopped working with Dean Cundy. I think this was the reign of Gary Kibbe as the go-to cinematographer.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But I can't help but notice, after watching a few of the Cundy shot films next to some of the Kibbe shot films, they have a very similar approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why Carpenter worked with them so much, is because they knew the style that he was looking for.
Yeah, he had his first in Prince of Darkness, and then They Live. And did a lot with John Carpenter. A few other films, Double Dragon, RoboCop, and he passed away last year, March 9th, so just over a year.
That is unfortunate. Snyder in the chat.
The set designs on this stuff is so cool, man.
Again,
nice variety.
Again, you got to remember, only a $3 million budget, and it doesn't look like they had
it feels more
so little to work with.
It feels more at times. This movie definitely over delivers from what the budget was. They maximized everything, really. And it really comes down to, that bond between Nada and Frank.
Yeah, Frank and Nada.
They have, it's such a good buddy. This is almost in a sense like a buddy film.
Oh yeah.
And I love how they casually stroll into this upscale dinner party. and just very casually tuck their guns into their waistbands. Like, oh,
Right.
if our guns are in a waistband, maybe they won't notice. We won't stand out. Everyone's in suits and they're here beat up in street clothes.
And see that's another thing too. I mean, of course, their appearance looks very unwelcome.
Yes.
But again, the whole when they run into Buck Flower here in a second, it again when I watched this for the first time, I was so taken aback by that. Like, why are you not alerting everyone else? And then I'm like, oh, duh, because that's the guy from the encampment earlier. There was just forgot where I was going with that. So something about how, again, they stand out just a little too much, and oh fuck. There he is.
The cleaned up Buck Flowers looking fresh to death.
Right, and yet he still looks like mega drunk, mega homeless Buck Flower.
Well, that's about as clean as you're gonna get from Buck Flowers, though, man. He looks like he got a makeover on like Ricky Lake, like one of the old talk shows from back in the day.
Oh man,
Where they're like, "We did our best."
We did our best. His facial hair was a little too thick and, well, dirty to cut. It broke 5 sets of clippers. So here you go. But yeah, I definitely did think it was interesting that this guy, who's clearly part of the elite, is showing them the ropes a little bit. Because again, having not really noticed his character too well earlier in the film. But of course, on a rewatch, you're like, okay, that is the same guy. And it really just makes sense of this whole little bit here going on. Another thing I noticed too that was really interesting was in that whole parlor room.
Yeah.
There was an English written exit sign by one of the doors. When you see earlier, they have signs written in their alien language. Just one of those small little things that I picked up there. Like,
that's cool.
Maybe it's for the humans who help serve them, just so they know.
Like Buck Flowers, right?
Yeah.
And apparently Meg Foster. And Buck Flowers is just, giving them the tour like he's just gonna easily persuade them. And it's not even like he's trying to persuade them, really. It's almost like he already thinks they're persuaded, and he's just showing them around.
Yeah,
very gullible.
He's a little too trustful of the previous bond that they had.
Yes.
And I kind of see where Buck Flower is on that. It's like, well, I know you guys. You're here, and so am I. So there's that. You want to trust what's familiar to you. It's kind of where Buck's at.
Love it. Yeah, they're playing it so cool too, right, man?
Oh yeah.
They're playing it so cool. Like, oh yeah, man, it's cool, this and that. That's such an ugly mug, man. Even with the use boom, done. You know what I never got to is, okay, so these are the alien people take over, right?
Right.
How do they disguise themselves as human? Like, what's the process? Do they morph into them? Are they like I don't get it.
That is a good question. See, I think knowing less, I think makes it a little more.
I think so too.
A little more palatable.
Ambiguity. Yeah.
And that is one of the key Carpenter ingredients. Like you look at the Carpenter cookbook, how to make a film.
Oh man, like we don't get a clear-cut answer in The Thing. The original Michael Halloween is left. Where's Michael?
Prince of Darkness even has that very ambiguous ending. I think there's a few that have a very cut and dried. This is what it is.
The fog has a pretty solid ending like that. Yeah.
And I'm sure the trying to think of one that I know for certain where I can. One that has a really great open ending is Village of the Damned.
Yes.
And that. Just the way that one ends, it's like, oh shit, is the evil gonna spread? You really, it makes you ask the questions, man.
It does. Great filmmaker. They're just kicking ass in the TV station, man. Mowing it down.
Movie trivia tournament on the 30th of April. Let me see the schedule here. I might be able. Yeah, I think I can. Yeah, I think I could do that, Wolfman. Yeah, I could do that.
The trivia?
Oh yeah. On the 30th of April.
Yes.
Over at Mega Movies. That's Michael's channel, I believe.
Yeah.
Michael Wolfman there.
Yeah, I'll be jumping on that as well. And the next day I go to a horror convention. So.
Oh hell yeah! I got a movie of trivia tomorrow night over on Good Real Hunting. It's gonna be Brad from Good Real Hunting, myself, Jason Nike, and Josh Weaver at Camp Blood Media versus Brett from Good Real Hunting, and then the crew over at Chris's channel for the Creeping It Real.
Very nice, very nice.
Nice little 4-on-4, and Chris and Brett's team are going down. God, could you imagine just being those two guys just scooting through there? Just
I love how they
shitting terror.
Now this guy over here has like the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I'm just noticing that too.
Yeah,
like,
I know that that's the thing that Egon had, and yeah, like we're especially when they're in the hotel in the first Ghostbusters and looking for Slimer and shit.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that until you pointed it out there. I'm like, that does look familiar. Yeah, there is definitely a, I don't want to say wooden, but a sense of lack of humanity, a sort of blandness to Meg Foster's portrayal here, which really helps with the hindsight. You kind of see what does happen with her character, and it's like,
yeah,
kind of makes sense why she's a callous bitch, very
fair enough,
emotionless, and
Keith,
right here,
Keith
like,
David getting clipped like that. Everything, this whole ending of this movie is so. It happens so fast that you can't even process it. It's like
right.
It's like Keith David's such a cool guy, and all of a sudden, boom, gone, dead, and you're like, what? Wait, huh? What?
Yeah, it's literally a blink and you miss it type thing. Like if you fucking close your eyes for a whole second, you're like, wait, what happened to Frank?
Yeah, Frank, you and Holly clear? I'm clear, and that's when he knows. Fuck. Tell you one thing is, one of those things where you just kind of have to write it away. It's just part of the story. That's the signal, right? That's the signal that controls everything.
Yeah, the fact
these aliens came and they're taking over LA. They're taking over the entire country. They're so evolved, everything, and they're so evolved to the point that they have one signal.
Yeah, that is
it's on the roof of a TV station where some bad weather could fuck it up too.
Yeah, that is one thing I could kind of throw a little complaint at. I mean, you would think there would be a much more elaborate setup than just a single satellite. And seeing the technology that the aliens have, you would think they would have something more advanced than even a fucking satellite. The whole fact that there's one enough is kind of mind-boggling. But love the middle finger that he gets out there.
In my mind, and I know this is not part of the story really, but in my mind, Roddy Piper doesn't die. Nada doesn't die. He's shot and he survives, and that's the end of it. Look at this.
Yeah.
And then I love the ending. What's wrong, baby? Great ending. If you were a guy and all of a sudden the girl was on top of you and she turned out to look like that, honestly, I would just finish anyway.
Dude, absolutely. It's like I've made it this far, and honestly, I've always wanted to bang an alien chick at least once. So it's like, oh wow, I'm getting my wish after all. So it's like, why not? So when you just roll her over, face down, ass up, shit.
Yep. But that is They Live, one of my all-time favorite horror films, and I consider it a horror film. I put it in my top 20. It's my favorite John Carpenter film. I have so much fun with it. It's a fun film, but there's a lot to dissect and talk about in regards to class structure and power and those who are really pulling the strings, in a micro and a macro level. Trust. Who can you trust? Who can't you trust? Some people are going to screw you from the beginning, and then you have, like a Meg Foster was always in it, and then you have people like a Buck Flowers who was there with you, but then got sucked into the other side. These are all themes that are relevant then, they're relevant now, they'll be relevant tomorrow and into the future.
Oh yeah, it's I think in the year 2088, people will still be looking back at They Live.
Yeah.
And being able to, they'll be able to take something away from it. And I don't know how many films will have that distinct ability.
Yeah.
But yeah, They Live. It's definitely in my top 5. I did a poll recently on, I believe it was on the Stream Demons fan page, and it was your favorite 80s Carpenter film that is not The Thing, because I knew that thing would totally tip the balance of the scales if I
remember that.
included that.
I hit They Live.
And that was the one I had to pick too. It's like I freaking adore everything he did in the 80s.
Yeah.
But They Live is the one that I had to go with, and I think Christine wound up winning out on that one with the popular consensus. And Christine is a damn fine film too. But Yeah, I was really pulling for They Live. I'm like, come on, guys, wake up. Wake up. You know, They Live is going to win. Wake up. I guess they don't want to put on the sunglasses, man.
That's it.
That's how I felt with that pull. Like, just put on the damn glasses and you'll see that They Live is the only true film there. Come on. Yeah, looking at everything he did in the 80s, it's like, it really was a hard decision, I'm sure. But yeah, They Live is certainly a masterpiece. I don't give star-based rating films or star-based ratings for films, but They Live easily gets 5 out of 5 for me, man.
Yes, for me as well. I love it for what it's set. The thing is, the way I think about things like that is like, what is the film trying to set out to do? You know, a 5 out of 5 for They Live. They go, whoa, so are you saying that's just as good as this whatever movie that wins like an Oscar? And you go, no, because like the goal point is different. You know,
Exactly.
If you make like the best slice of pizza that I've ever had, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I sit down and you're cooking a steak and it's got a potato and it's got a filet mignon and this and that. I'll give that a 5 out of 5 too. Does that mean that the pizza's better than that? Not necessarily. I'm not saying that, but the goal is different.
Right. Yeah, that's one reason too why I think rating systems really are overblown, just because there's a certain level you're trying to reach with different things.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing has this level, this is what we're trying to accomplish, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
And I mean, you summed the argument up very well with the pizza versus steak there. But yeah, They Live. I can't tell you how many times I've watched this movie in the last year.
Really great stuff.
It's one that I've already watched it at least 3 times since the new year. I really enjoy it that much.
Amazing. Roddy Piper passing away, and it is now 12:08. It is officially the birthday of Roddy Piper. Just for all intents and purposes, very talented. Everyone seemed to really care for him and like him that was close to him. And for any wrestling fans out there, one of the all-time greats, and very memorable. Maybe not the most technically sound, but it didn't matter. He was working within the world of of the times, and he was so entertaining. I remember my best friend. We went with his older brother, who was also a wrestler. He wrestled on the Independence, and we used to go to drive about 40 minutes into Queens to go to a wrestling tape store where they would just sell VHS tapes of wrestling. This is 2001, 2002, before everyone was doing DVDs all the time. And I remember he bought a 6-hour VHS tape that was just the best Roddy Piper interviews. No matches. Just interviews.
Hell yeah,
such
man.
a good talker, such a good character, and it reflected well on screen. And I hope he was proud of the work that he put out there, because, I know we are.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Considering stopping doing rating systems on my channel because of our 0 or 10 environment, if you give anything a 7, people will say, why did you hate it and shit like that. That is that's pretty much on point. I know exactly how that is. Usually when I'm done talking about a movie, I basically just give a recommendation. Would I watch it? Would I tell you to watch it?
Yeah.
That's what I do in place of a rating.
For me, I like giving star ratings mainly for myself. It's how I view things, how well I think it is. I'm gonna hear shit from people, and that's fine, but I don't care what they think. It doesn't matter. What's 5 stars to me might be a 1 star to you, and that's perfect. That's cool. But
right.
It's really just more for me, like in my mind. I have fun rating and ranking stuff. I mean, that's like, it's part of what I, when I do my YouTube stuff, I give stuff a rating, and when I do my wrestling writing, I rank every show. That's how I rank all the matches. But it all comes down to personal preference.
Oh yeah.
And I think the thing is too, maybe if you follow certain people and your opinions line up with them, if they say, hey, this movie's 4 stars out of 5, you might go, well, you know what, I agree with that person a lot of the times, and 4 out of 5 to them is kind of what 4 out of 5 is to me.
Right.
Then maybe you can go that way. But there will be times when I'm watching certain YouTubers, and my views just don't line up with theirs. So when they come out and give a movie 1 star, I'll go, man, you know what? Now it's fun to kind of go and watch it myself,
right,
and be like, yeah, that 1 star is bullshit. Same thing when with wrestling writers. Oh, that match was 5 stars. It was great. And I look and I go, no, it wasn't. So it's fun to compare, but I totally get where you both are coming from, in the sense of, if you rate something give it a certain rating, there are gonna be people who just come out to attack you. But you know what? That's when you either tell those people to go take a long walk off a short pier, or give it the old block. Say, now I can block you. I don't know you. Now I never have to worry about your stinky ass again. Go fuck yourself.
It's like if you want to see my star ranking, just hit up my letterbox and you'll see all my star rankings there.
And with stuff like that, when we bust out our rankings and stuff, don't take it too when people take it too serious. That's when it gets a problem. It's supposed to be for fun, and these aren't like definite lists. These are just people's opinions.
Oh, some of mine change every other day, man.
Yeah.
At least
very few of my. I mean, there's always going to be one that stays the same. Favorite movie of all time, Jaws.
Oh yeah,
things like that.
Yeah, there's definitely a few that they have their spot, and there's no 1 or 2 ways about it. Some things will stay in their spot, and for good reason. Like, as I don't want to say as generic of an answer as it is, Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Is and always will be my number 1 favorite film of all time.
I mean, fantastic film. The first movie I ever bought on DVD. I think it was the first movie I got on Blu-ray too. I remember when we got a 50-inch flat screen for the first time. We upgraded from a 27-inch tube TV, and we got a surround sound system and our first DVD player. And I got Terminator 2 as my first DVD. And I remember sitting down. It was like sitting in the movie theater, in 2001 or whatever it was.
Hell yeah, man.
That was some good shit, bro. And now, of course, everything is Blu-ray. And once I get a PS5 at the end of the year, I guess it'll be 4K, right?
Yeah. I got a couple things that are on the 4K DVD and Blu-ray combo pack.
I have 4K TV, but I don't have a 4K player.
Yeah, I tried to see if I could trick my region-free Blu-ray player, because it's like, well, you don't have any region coding. Can you tell a difference between a DVD and a Blu-ray? And it can.
I'm excited because you know what? A couple of months ago, did you ever see that Dawn of the Dead special edition? I think I might have showed it to you.
Yeah.
That's all 4K, and the bonus disc is all Region B. I don't have a Region Free player, and I don't have a 4K player. So that 4-disc bad boy sitting over there hasn't been played once.
Man.
And my love for Dawn, next to Jaws, it's my second favorite horror film.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just waiting for, when I get a PlayStation 5, the first disc that's going in there isn't a video game.
Right.
It's gonna be Dawn.
Yeah, there's I almost want to get a PS5, just seeing everything that it can take in on that.
Yeah, my plan for that is I always usually wait like a year So I'm going to get it for Christmas. I figured by Christmas time, maybe even the price might go down a little, or at worst, there'll just be more. There'll be enough in stock for everyone to get it.
Right. Yeah, because I think that was one of the issues with it fairly recently, was that they didn't have enough supply to meet the demand.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, Sony, that's capitalism 101. Nice little segue from the film of the night.
Yeah.
Got to understand how to operate their crony capitalism, man.
Very much so.
Just want to do a quick final post plug to the Scream Factory edition of They Live.
Mm-hmm.
Got the Blu-ray and the DVD here, and you can see I could not decide on which cover I liked more.
Yeah, might as well, if we're gonna show, might as well just go all the way around the screen, right?
Damn right. The evolution of cinema, baby.
That's right. I have the Blu-ray as well. I think I might have the DVD somewhere. It's really great. The Blu-ray's a nice transfer. Scream Factory always does a great job with cover art.
Oh yeah.
The special features are always on point. I mean, there's a Scream Factory, Arrow, Synapse, Blue Underground. Those are really good stuff. If you want to go a little more high end, you go to Criterion Collection. That always feels a little more highbrow, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, and I heard that Criterion have actually been doing their stuffs for over 20 years now.
Yeah, I'm actually getting a Criterion release coming on Tuesday. It's just getting released. Bong Joon-ho's Memories of Murder. It's a great film. He's the director of Parasite.
Oh, okay.
I finally got to see that movie, Memories of Murder, a couple of months ago. It wasn't available anywhere on digital or regular region A DVD or Blu-ray. But it came on digital. I watched it. And I put the pre-order in for the Blu-ray. But yeah, there's a channel that I follow. His name is Daisuke Beppu. It's a Japanese.
Oh, yep.
You know Daisuke?
Oh yeah. I just got some good stuff there.
Into Criterion Collection, look no further. You will not find anybody who has more knowledge about the Criterion Collection and the releases than he does. He has almost every release they've ever had, including DVD, Blu-ray, and Laserdisc. And he has such a calming voice. There are times when I found his channel. We're digressing a little bit, sorry. I found his channel when I was looking through Dario Argento reviews last year, and he did all of his movies. And I would just go to sleep sometimes and just put my headphones on and I would listen to it like a podcast.
Oh yeah.
I would his voice, listening to him talk, it's almost like going on YouTube and putting in sleep music and listening.
Oh
to
yeah.
It. Yeah, so like that.
You got that soothing little piano intro at the beginning of his videos there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was actually through Daisuke's channel that I found out Criterion have been around as long as they have. Like, I never would have known that if I had not been watching this video.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah. You know what? They Live, an amazing movie. Like I said, it hits so many of the right buttons. I'm glad people are still talking about it today.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't want to see a remake. I think they would water it down. I'd watch it.
Oh, 100%.
I definitely watch it, but
there's
a charm to this original film. Like a lot, I'm sure part of it is nostalgia, but it just works.
Yeah, this is one. I don't have the nostalgia for it like you do, and it really works for me in a lot of the same ways that you say that it works.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not nostalgia. A lot of it is just how on point with where the world is that the movie is poking at. Of course, it's just a fun film too if you want to watch it for that.
Yes.
Like, you ignore the message, or not necessarily ignore it, but you put the message on the back burner. You can still enjoy it as a fun film. And it really is scary when you think of the idea, and that's what makes it a horror film. It's like the idea of knowing that your life is not really under your control. That is a terrifying concept. Not being able to control your destiny. And that is exactly what these aliens are doing. In John Carpenter's They Live. So, as we close out, everybody just be sure to go check out Robby's channel. That is Reviews and Rankings with Robby Sobel. Did I say that in the right order?
You did, my brother.
All right. 2 R words will totally throw me off. But Reviews and Rankings with Robby Sobel, go check it out. Give him a sub if you have not already. All that is down in the bio. And until then, you all have a good night. Stay filthy and keep watching great John Carpenter movies.
That's right.